What's groovy, y'all? I'm Danye.
And I'm Marcia, and this is the
Hey Sissy Podcast.
Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy,
peace to the haters.
go
Bye,
Sissy.
see you later.
Hey,
You my
Sissy,
road dog,
go
sis, we are
Sissy.
greater.
Hey, Sissy,
Holding it down, and
go
you know we stay
Sissy.
true.
Hey,
Fam
Sissy,
to the end
go
is how
Sissy.
we do.
Hey,
Fam to the
Sissy,
end
go
is how
Sissy.
we do.
Hey,
Fam to the
Sissy,
end
go
is how we
Sissy.
do.
Hey Sissy, go Sissy. Hey Sissy, go Sissy.
Go, 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 go.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
We the bomb, let's go, sissy.
Hey.
All right, y'all. Today we're talking about stereotypes, and this is going to be a two-part series. So, on this part, we're talking about being black, because I'm black, y'all. I'm black, y'all. I'm blackity black, and I'm black, y'all. All right, Danye, what do you think it means to be black?
To be honest, I don't know what it means to be black. I know stereotypes that are associated with being black. I know things that are assumed that black people do. Like sometimes black people are considered loud or strong-willed, maybe aggressive. But I don't necessarily think that means what it means to be black. I honestly don't know what it means to be any race. Honestly, I know there's cultures that come with each race. But I just think it's all about the person and the mindset. I don't think it has anything to do with your color, what color you are. So I don't really know what it means to be black. I know there are things that black people do more than other races and vice versa, but just to be black, I'm not really sure. How about you? What you think?
So I think it depends on the context. So because we're in the United States of America, and black culture kind of like dominates the conversation about what it means to be black. I think it's like one-sided or just one-dimensional, but how we view being black here is not how other people view being black. Because here, we're a small percentage of the population. So here, being black means you're a descendant of slaves. It means you're the creators of popular culture, popular music. We bomb dancers, we make bomb food. It's basically a lot of things about being black here in the United States is that we're basically awesome. We have a tragic history, a common history.
Yes.
But we've rose from that history to be just the bomb culturally. Like our culture is admired globally.
Right.
We just magic, So I think that's what it means to be black, but I think it's like we have to narrow it down to what it means to be a black American.
I don't think that would make us black. I think it's our culture that we have as people. So I don't know. For me, I just kind of think like I don't think we have our culture simply because we're black. I think we have our culture based on our experience and our history. And I think through history, us as black people have done things and created things based on our experiences and our history that have kind of cultivated kind of how we define ourselves, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily think we're black because of our skin color. I think we're black by our history, our culture, and our experience.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have that history, culture, and experience had it not been for our skin color and how people treated us based on our skin color.
True.
Because our culture, so had we grown up with this skin color in an African country, we've been treated completely different. We've been treated as the norm.
Right.
Because most people over in African countries are our skin color, darker or lighter. So therefore, they don't have the history that we have here.
Right.
So because of our history in this country, that's how our culture is developed into what it is today.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, songs we know, Negro spirituals are like the basis of gospel music.
Right.
It was developed out of sorrow, trauma, hardships of slavery. And so we wouldn't have gospel music had we not have Negro spirituals and had there not been slavery.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
So in this country, our skin color goes hand in hand with our culture.
So, let me ask you this. Dating back to our history and slavery and all of that, do you think we were chosen because we were black? Not chosen. Let me not use that word. It wasn't really a chosen kind of.
No Kanye.
Yes. Do you think Caucasians kind of came over and took us because they knew of our like who we were, or because we simply were black, or because they knew we were warriors and they knew we were strong and they knew we, were hunters and stuff? So do you think that's what it was, or simply for
none of the above?
None of the above. Okay.
So what happens? So in all cultures, when tribes are at war, the winning tribe takes the people from the other tribe as slaves. But the difference between what happened here and those other cultures, like you were slaves for a time period, and then when they did that, when they took over a neighboring tribe, they sold them as slaves. So the Europeans that went to the west coast of Africa, they originally bought slaves.
Oh, okay.
So because that's just what the times were at that time. You bought slaves. They had white slaves, they had black slaves, they had all kinds of slaves.
Okay.
And so this wasn't supposed to be a slave history lesson, but here we are. Anyway, so what ended up happening was it became such a lucrative business that they stopped buying slaves and started stealing slaves.
Oh,
or they started getting other African tribes to steal people. So it went from being like captors being sold to people being kidnapped and then sold to make money.
Oh, okay. So a greed thing, pretty much.
Yeah, and just to say, to cap onto that, race then started because no one bought those slaves because they were black.
Right.
But once they got over here and they had white slaves and they had black slaves, what ended up happening was, in order to keep the slaves from joining together and revolting, they separated them by race. They made the white indentured servants believe that they were better than the black slaves.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how race was created, to make sure that they didn't rise up and overthrow the masters.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I didn't know none of that.
It happens a lot.
Right.
So I went to a black elementary school, middle school, and high school. So I learned a lot of this. And I also took a lot of African and multicultural classes in college, and then I read a lot. But a lot of black people don't know like this full range of history. You are not alone.
Yeah, I did not know that they actually had like white slaves. They only pinpoint the fact that black people were being sold and captured and stuff. They never highlighted the fact that white people were slaves as well.
Yeah, they didn't highlight it because the way of the treatment. So indentured servants, they weren't treated nearly as bad as black slaves. At some point, black slaves weren't even considered people. They were less than dogs.
Right.
So, and that was intentional. So that's why that's highlighted. Because at some point, indentured servants, they're only indentured for a short period of time.
Oh, okay.
And then another thing that happened with American slavery that doesn't happen other places is that your children aren't born into slavery. And here is the only country where we did that.
Oh.
Where your kids were then also enslaved along with you. Your wife was enslaved. It wasn't, because they still do this in some African countries. Like a poor family will send their daughter to work for a richer family, and that rich family will give that family money. So that this girl, they call them house girls. So it's kind of the same concept, but at some point that girl will no longer be a house girl and she'll go off to live her life. But only her will do it. Like, she won't have kids, and then her kids also become working for their family.
Oh, okay. So they adopted a different kind of method here.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Little history lesson right there for you guys, if you didn't know that.
It's part of being black, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, do you think there's a difference between black Americans and Africans, or African Americans, or Caribbean Americans, and all of that?
Yeah. Because a lot of people who I guess are black American are here in America. You know what I'm saying? So we know American culture. Those who are African American or Caribbean or so forth and so on, they have different cultures. So I understand that our our skin color may be the similar, but I think mindset and culture is different. So I think that's what that separation begins. Even the language is different as well. So I think there's a difference between them. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some cultural links because, of course, we all came from Africa. So even though you are long removed from your original home,
Right.
you still have some cultural things you pass on, or some cultural things that may have evolved or changed over time, but still are like other cultures.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, our skin color's the same. Ooh, decline. We're gonna save that one. Pause, excuse me one moment. Okay, so next question.
Okay.
Who is considered black or not, or who considers themselves black and who doesn't?
Man, that's hard. I mean anybody who is black,
brown skin,
yeah. I mean, other races, they kind of take on, I guess, our culture and things that we do. But I don't think that necessarily makes them black, because like we can do things from other cultures as well. Like we eat Chinese food, but that doesn't make us Chinese. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I would have to say, for instance, the skin color.
So the thing is, it depends on who you ask. So racially, if you brown, you black, right?
Yeah.
Culturally, some people don't consider themselves black. Like a lot of they call it Afro-Latina now, or Afro-Latino. So a lot of people from like Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba, they may not consider themselves black. And then a lot of South American countries, they use other terms to describe the different skin tones, like mulatto and all of these olives. Like they actually describe skin tone.
Right.
But here it's like, if you brown, you black.
Right.
If you not brown, you white. If you're a little yellow, you Asian. And then it's like, if you're brown Indian, that's a different category altogether. Right. So it just depends where you are. Here, we're like, if you brown, you black. And if you grew up in America or you're descendants of slaves, you black.
But like you were saying, other people can be from other countries. So you have to be born here in order to be considered, based on color, black. Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking like there's other people, people who are, have darker skin who are not, I guess, black. They just have darker skin, melanin, such as we do. You know what I'm saying?
So I think, like, as far as like racism goes, you black, you black. They don't care where you came from, you black. But as far as like actual people who are melanated, to us, it depends. Like Black Americans, or as some people like to call themselves, descendants of slaves. They're like, if you didn't grow up here, if you're not a descendant of slave, you can't claim blackness in America.
I just think it's hard to really, because we're basing blackness off of a skin color more times than not. You know what I'm saying? If you have brown skin or more melanin, then you are considered black. But the thing is that there are people who are albino, and they are not even technically, they're black too. They just have a lack of skin pigmentation. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, a question is, okay, well, what do you say about albinos?
So technically, black isn't like it's just like skin tone. It doesn't really define anything. So they're albino, they're not black, but they could be like of African descent.
That's what makes me go back to that first question. What did it mean to be black? It don't really mean anything to be black.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. So like, comment down below what y'all think it means to be black, because we see here that we base most of the times blackness off the color of your skin, and then sometimes people base it off of culture. People base it off of mindset, like the girl Rachel
Dolezal. Oh my God. She's a trans black woman.
Exactly, trans black woman. I ain't heard that before.
That's what she was basically trying to be. She was trying to be like transgender people. She was trying to go from white to black.
So, I mean, she wasn't born black, but she has taken on, I guess, the culture of black people, the identity. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't like that. So I will pose a question to y'all. What do y'all think it means to be black? Even Michael Jackson, you know.
He went from being black to not.
You know, he still will be black, right? Despite the color of his skin. You know, so again, what does it mean to be black?
Is it culture or is it skin tone?
Y'all, comment down below. Is it culture or skin tone meaning you were black?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're going to actually move now
Okay.
into the actual stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think are some like key stereotypes associated with being black?
Being loud,
Yes.
being aggressive,
Yes.
kind of have taken on this idea that, you know, black people are poor,
Mm-hmm.
and that black people don't have fathers in their lives.
Yeah.
A lot of negative stuff, actually. Yeah.
There are some positive stereotypes.
There is.
So the negative ones are that we're violent,
Mhm.
women are angry,
Mhm.
men are lazy,
Mm-hmm.
we're uneducated,
Mm-hmm.
basically trash. They're just black people ain't good is all the bad stereotypes. But then the good ones, which are also kind of bad if you don't fit into them, is that black people can dance.
Yeah.
Black people got big booties.
They can cook.
They can cook. What else is it? Black men have large penises. We're just gonna go out there and say it. That's a stereotype.
Oh, another bad stereotype is everybody assumes black people have nappy hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna get into other conversations about that later. But
Yes.
yeah, so there are positive stereotypes,
Mhm.
but if you don't fit into those positive stereotypes, you either feel like black people will talk about you. If you can't dance, they will talk about you.
Yes.
Also, if you don't fit into those positive stereotypes, it makes you feel like you're not black or you're less than.
Oh, speaking of this H&M thing, have you seen that?
Yeah, with the little girl.
Yeah.
So the thing about that is, it's whoever posted that, they skewed it.
They did. They had a bad intention behind it.
Yeah. So if you hadn't seen it by now, this video is gonna come out like 2 weeks after that happened. But essentially, this little girl, H&M did this ad where this two little black girls had their hair pulled back, but their hair wasn't neat. It was just like a little messy little kid hair. But someone like posted it with like, why H&M stay doing this? Like, why they didn't comb the little girl hair? Da da da. But it's like when you take just the photos of the black kids by themselves, you're like, man, H&M, why y'all stay treating black people like this? Y'all stay doing racist stuff. But then it's like when you look at it in relation to the actual campaign, all the kids look like they just came fresh from school,
right?
Or just came from playing outside, and that was their goal, to let the kids look like children actually look. And they may have got that idea from on social media. All these parents started posting
their
like
kids before and after.
Yeah, so like people always post their kids' first day of school pictures. The kids always go to school looking polished, and then they started posting the end of the day pictures, and people put them side by side, and the kids be looking like rough.
Yeah,
like they went through war through the course of the day. Like they had a hard day at work, and so maybe H&M got the idea to do that for the campaign, to just allow kids to look like kids.
So there were other kids too that looked like that.
And there were white kids, biracial kids, Asian kids. They all look like regular kids do at the end of the day, where their hair be all over their head. All of them did.
And see, that's the thing. That's how social media misconstrues a lot of things and kind of plays into the stereotype. And then we back to the race thing. You know, one person posted one perspective of the situation and took that, and now look at how it has, you know, blasted, you know, to this negative thing that H&M is trying to be racist. And yes, some things are about race, but not everything is about race.
No.
And so I actually didn't know that. I had no issue with the photo. I'm just like, you know, the parents knew what was happening. We don't know what occurred during that time. And we're so quick to say our opinions and what we think without getting a full story behind stuff. And so, yeah.
Yeah, because the assumption is that they don't know. Well, I mean, it's not an assumption. When it comes to like the fashion industry, there is a history of people in the industry not being able to do black people's makeup and black people's hair. And so because of that, when you see a picture of the little girl with her hair kind of what some people call unkempt,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, why they let this little girl take these pictures like this? Because your first assumption is that whenever people take photos for a photo shoot, they look polished.
Right.
But their intentions, H&M's actual intentions for this campaign was for all the kids to look unpolished.
Right.
And so, but it's like when you take those photos out of context with the history that people have, that's why they immediately go on the defensive.
Right. And that's another thing, like black people, like when somebody like look like that, we be like, oh, what's wrong with the parents? Why the parents didn't do this child hair? Why they let her leave looking like that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's because that's another stereotype, even among black people, is that natural hair is unkempt. And it's a cultural stereotype. That's why a lot of black people stopped wearing their natural hair because it was seen as unprofessional, unkempt. But in reality, like, this is my hair. This is a flat twist, but to somebody, this may look like I hadn't done my hair.
Right.
But it's like, this is intentional style. But that little girl's hair was just like how she looked at the end of the day. That's how all kids look. And some adults look like that. By the end of the day, you be looking real cute and polished when you start out. But hair does its own thing, and it like moves out of place or whatever the case may be. You sweat, you get hot, and it changes. But it's like we put too much emphasis on looking perfect, and that's also a historical thing.
Yeah.
Because if you ever see pictures of black people from like the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they used to like wear suits regular. Like that was their going out clothes with suits and like nice dresses and stuff like that, because the idea is that black people have to be perfect in order to not be judged or discriminated against, and that is false. We gonna be discriminated against regardless what you look like.
That's such a good point, because when black people go out, it don't matter where they go. They spiff from toes to the head, from the head to the toes, from the rooter to the tutor. Okay? I mean, no, seriously, I think that kind of also plays into the culture of the church. That when you go to church, you gotta have your suit and tie on, and you have to
Gators.
Yes, you gotta have a certain attire as a black woman, a hat and everything like that in certain churches. So that was a good point you made, that has played into, I guess, because during those other times we, I guess, were looked rough from slavery.
I guess it probably was trying to overcompensate from slavery.
Yeah.
So it's like, now that I'm not a slave anymore, I want to look. The goal was trying to look like everyone else, like an American citizen. So you dressed up to look like, try to like say, look, I belong. You can treat me like an actual human. Right. Because it's like the idea was that slaves were uncivilized or whatever the case may be. So it's like you're trying to overcompensate and look civilized. Right. But now it's kind of turned. I keep getting phone calls.
So it's crazy how everything goes full circle and kind of goes back to the originality of what occurred. I don't think, talking to you, it's like crazy how we come to that realization, how things go back to what we do now, go back, because like it says, history repeats itself. And even though it's not repeating itself in the exact same form, we're kind of doing things to make up for what occurred years ago. And I don't think we even realize what we're doing until, I guess, we like talk about it and really discuss it. So yeah, that's actually like kind of interesting to know.
Yeah, so basically all stereotypes are rooted in history. So like the stereotype that black people like watermelon, that's a historical thing. Right. Because when slavery ended, and black people who were truly free, who didn't go into like sharecropping or who didn't stay on the plantations, they had to figure out a way to make money for themselves. So what they started to do was grow watermelon. If you ever try to grow watermelon, it's actually super easy. You find a seed, you plant it, it kind of sprouts up on its own during the summertime. You barely have to do anything. So so black people started growing watermelons and then selling them. And then this stereotype actually goes back to a European thing too, because in Europe they looked at people, basically they looked at people who ate watermelon as like childlike or kind of sloppy, because watermelon's not, we try to eat it real cute right now, like we be like using our little fork and stuff, but really in reality, when you just having a good time, you just cut that watermelon in half, you eat it off the rind, and it's a messy thing to do. So it's like, if you see eating watermelon as like childlike and stuff like that, and then you see black people selling it, then it becomes, for some reason, watermelon becomes associated with being black. Right. And so now some black people, whether they realize it or not, they don't eat watermelon. because they don't want to like have that stereotype. Some black people will admit not wanting to eat watermelon around white people, and it's funny because like the stereotype they have black people like fried chicken, black people like watermelon. Living in Texas, that's a southern thing. White people love fried chicken.
Hello,
Chick-fil-A ain't in business because of black folk.
No.
But it's like it is a southern thing to like watermelon because watermelon grows in Texas easy. It gets high in Texas. Texas is a perfect place to grow watermelon. So, and then fried chicken, it's easy to do that in the South because it's like all you need is some flour and some chicken. You can find a chicken on the side of the road.
For real.
And some flour and you hooking it up. And so for some reason they've become synonymous with black people because of history, but we ain't the only ones that like it.
Yeah. So I think it's a matter of, I guess, trying to, even though we have stereotypes as black people, it's a matter of trying to break it from our mind. Our mindset, because we've taken on these stereotypes based on our history without even realizing it, and we're so much trying to, I guess, get out of those stereotypes. We don't realize what we're doing. So we got to just break that mindset of the stereotypes is there, they're gonna be there, you know what I'm saying? So we just got to try to free our mindset of it, really.
Yeah, because some stereotypes are a part of systematic racism.
Yeah.
Because like people say you talk black or talk white.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Did people tell you talk white growing up?
No.
Okay, people told me that, and they told Nikki that. Okay, so I grew up in Fifth Ward. It's a historically black neighborhood. And I went to all black schools. But I don't know how this happened. Maybe it's my grandma. I think because she had us read a lot. We watched a lot of movies, a lot of what you would call white movies. Growing up, my grandma was a teacher. She had a master's degree. She was like, we say words wrong, she corrected us. So she made us say words properly. We just spoke proper English. But growing up in school, people called me white girl because everybody else talking slang or Ebonics, or now it's called African American Vernacular English because it's a dialect.
Wow.
It's not bad English, it's a dialect.
Interesting.
But if you speak in Ebonics, as some people used to call it, then that's considered black.
Right.
But then if you speak in proper, you're enunciating your words accordingly, you seem amongst black people to be talking white.
They don't even make sense.
It's not, because it's a systematic thing. Because if you see on TV, all you see is white people,
right?
And they all talk a certain way,
right?
And then you are living amongst black people, and they all talk a different way,
right?
If you hear a black person talking like the white people talk on TV, then you're like, you talk white, because you don't associate speaking proper with being black,
right?
And that is intentional.
Yes. So that's what it all boils down to. It all, like you said, systematic racism. It's all a system. It's all a mind thing, really. Like, I've been hearing pretty much how certain commercials are presented on television on certain networks.
Oh yeah, McDonald's.
Like, always is on a black network. Certain cars are on a black network. Different. So it's all a mindset thing. So if we have allowed ourselves to, I guess, been brainwashed, allow ourselves to be fed in our visual in our mind about certain things, then that's how it's portrayed. Like, a lot of times growing up, we are surrounded by our own race. So we're used to hearing a certain way of talking and living. So when we see something different, it's going to seem to be different to us. So there's no such thing as talking white or talking black, honestly. I mean, English is English.
Yeah, there are dialects. So the way people in Texas talk, you may call it Southern talking because we say y'all. Other people don't say y'all. And people in Boston, I think they say like yous or yous guys or something like that. It's like, it's just different regional dialects. And black people have their own dialect. And even though a lot of people don't think it, even the way black people speak, it has a grammatical pattern to it.
It does.
Because all languages have a grammatical pattern to it, even the way black people talk. Even when we like, girl, I'm about to go. Normally people don't say that because we talk the way we talk, or we be like. That's something you wouldn't normally say. That's a black people thing.
Right.
But it's a cultural dialect.
Right.
It's not speaking white or black. It's just a cultural dialect.
It just kind of slang and everything just kind of came about through time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody has their own kind of slang.
Yeah.
So it's not the fact that it's a white talk or a black talk.
Mm-mm.
It's just, I guess, the kind of slang that has just been developed and picked up through time, through generation, through people. You know what I'm saying?
And I think it's a characteristic of an oppressed people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like if you pay attention to other cultures in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
I like British TV,
Mm-hmm.
so I notice things about British culture. So like over there, if you ever listen to rap,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the rappers in London are of Jamaican descent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if all of them are
Mhm.
Jamaican, but they all end up having like this Jamaican rap style.
Right.
So that's the rappers,
Mhm.
that's how they rap over in the UK.
Right.
Because that's the culture. Like here, people rap different. They end up, I mean, our culture is rapping about sex, drugs, and money.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about theirs. But it's just, that's what ended up happening. And then like poor people in London, they have a different dialect than
Mhm.
like the richer class.
Right.
Of course. Because that's how it is. Like if you're an oppressed people, you're gonna develop your own language, because
Right.
it's like out of oppression comes creativity.
Yeah.
It's an interesting connection somehow. I don't know.
This kind of make me think of the movie Malibu Most Wanted, where he was pretending to be a rapper or whatever the case may be.
or Takeshi 6ix9ine.
And yeah. So, oh wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think when I think about the language, I think about that because he kind of had that, like, I guess, black slang in the movie. You know what I'm saying? It's funny, but I don't know if people had a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? Because now people feel like it's cultural with appropriation, where if they play around with it or use it as something, they're stealing from us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's funny. Cultural appropriation happens in all cultures.
It
all
does.
cultures appropriate other people's cultures.
They do.
And it's funny, black people get so upset about it because, again, historical context.
Yeah.
Black people, as we be blacking out here, we just black people being black people, we good at making music and stuff. But because of racism, a white person would go and like literally steal the sound and style and give no credit to the person they heard it from and get rich
Right.
off of it. Elvis Presley is a good example. People always say there was rock and roll before Elvis Presley existed, but somehow he became the king of rock and roll.
Right.
Even though black people was out there rocking and rolling
Before
long
that,
for him.
yeah.
Like Little Richard was out there before Elvis, but I don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so that's why black people get so upset about cultural appropriation now, because like it still happens. Kim Kardashian gets cornrows and now they're boxer braids. But black women been wearing cornrows, rocking cornrows for decades.
Yeah.
And so that's why we get upset. But then I watched this comedy show last night with Bill Burr, and he was talking to his wife. His wife is black, and then they were talking about cultural appropriation, and Lawrence does this to me. For some reason, husbands like to antagonize their wives. He was like, okay, I hear you about cultural appropriation with Elvis, but what about skateboarding? He was like, that's a white boy thing.
Oh wow.
It is. Skateboarding is a total white boy thing, but Pharrell is known for skateboarding.
He is. So let me ask you this. Two things. One, do you feel like we do that because we haven't gotten credit, so we want to be accepted and we feel like we're entitled to things now because we haven't gotten, I guess, the necessary credit and entitlement that we think is due to us? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, because it's like you tired of people stealing your stuff. Black women are naturally have big butts or full lips, but on black women it's like ugh. Like historically again, there's this lady named Sarah. I can't remember her full name. She was an African lady. Europeans saw her. Sarah had a huge butt, but then they end up putting Sarah in like museums and stuff. And having a big butt was not a good thing if you were not black.
Right.
But then now, having full lips was a whole thing. But now, Kylie out here get her lips injected, have full lips, make a lip line, and now it's all suddenly on white women. Basically, what it ends up doing on black women is like, oh, whatever. On white women, it's admired, and that's why people get upset. Cause like the stuff we do, seem ghetto or whatever, colored hair is red, blue hair is ghetto on black women, but then somehow it's like awesome on white women.
Yeah. It all boils down to the history, honestly.
Everything is historical context.
Because it all just kind of bled into our present. Man, that makes so much sense. But I think as time goes on, we're starting to embrace who we are more and more. I just think that we have to stop caring. We got to start caring a little less about what is said about us, because it's always going to be said. It's always going to be something. So I think the less we care, because they know what affects us. They know what triggers us, i.e. the H&M thing. They know if we spew this out, put this out, it's going to trigger them and get them all riled up and all of this stuff. They know our triggers. They know what gets us. They know what points to hit us at. They know all of this, and that's what they do. Yeah. So I think as Black people, we have to begin to not allow the stereotypes to define us and allow the stereotypes to affect us to the point where, you know, it has to be a fight for everything. We have to begin just continue to grow and become powerful and use the resources that we have access to kind of, you know, become better.
Yeah, I mean, some stereotypes are true. Yeah. Black people do know how to dance because we've learned, and at some point, like, the rhythm is in our genetics, it seems. But also, there are other cultures that know how to dance. Black people can sing, and so can Korean people. Yeah. Koreans be singing, baby. But it's like, there are some stereotypes do have some truth to them, but a lot of them do not. The one that irks me, I think, the most is the angry Black woman. Yeah. Because it's like, anger is a normal emotion.
It is.
But it's like, for some reason, Black women are allowed to be angry.
You know why? It goes back to the mind thing. It's so many movies where women are doing that. Currently loving hip hop.
Oh, I hate love.
I don't watch that. But every Black woman on there is angry, is upset, is fighting, is bickering. That's all that we see. You know what I'm saying? I always see this picture with Angela Bassett, I believe it's her, where she done lit this house on fire.
Oh, from Waiting to Exhale.
Oh, okay, yeah. You always see that picture. You know what I'm saying? You always hear stories about.
That was a boss picture, though.
It was a boss. I was. But
you may have not seen Waiting to Exhale. So what ended up happening is her husband cheated on her, and she got fed up, and she put all his clothes in his fancy car, and she lit it on fire and walked away.
And see, that's another thing, a stereotype that's how Black women react when something happens with their man.
I mean, sometimes it's necessary.
It's not necessary. It's not. No. That's a different conversation. No.
Mary J. Blige says, "I was your lover and your secretary.
No.
Working for you every day and night."
No.
Yes.
That's a whole different conversation.
I was there when no one else was there. Holding you tight.
Are we in the music mode?
No, but you gotta understand context. Sometimes holding somebody down.
No.
They betray you. You gotta light their stuff on fire.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh my God.
That's a part of our culture too. That's another stereotype. I'm gonna say because Black people, I think it's ingrained in us. We love struggle music. Love it. Everybody was like, "Oh man, Mary J. Blige, when she was going through it, they loved her music." Now they just be like, "Oh, you know, Mary all happy and stuff. Her music okay." We love struggle music.
That's crazy that you say that, because it's like, whenever we struggling is whenever we feel like we good.
Yeah. So
because it's like, when you know how you want to come up and you struggling with somebody and it's all good and I'm gonna hold you down, bro. I'm gonna hold you down, sis. We in this together. As soon as you come up, oh, what's up? You didn't left me. You forgot who I am. What's up? Why were you so comfortable with me when we were struggling, but we can't be comfortable with each other when we up, or when I'm up, or you up, vice versa? Why is it okay that we are in the struggle together? why can't we be on a come up together and have that same, you know, enthusiasm?
I don't know, because that is another stereotype that I think there's a lot of stereotypes that Black people have on ourselves too.
Yeah.
Like there's stereotypes that culture has on us, and there's the ones we have on us too.
Mm-hmm.
Black people associate struggle with being Black.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't grow up in the hood, some Black people will be like, you're not Black, or you're not Black enough. So yeah, I grew up in the hood, but I talked proper,
Mm-hmm.
but I still grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
I don't know if people be like, you're not Black enough.
Right.
It's funny. So here's a funny story.
Okay.
Growing up, talked proper,
Mm-hmm.
got called white girl.
Mm-hmm.
Went to all Black schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I didn't go to HBC because I was like, I grew up around Black people all my life. I know Black people. Let's go see what other people are like.
Right.
So I went to the University of North Texas. So growing up, I wasn't Black enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I go to the University of North Texas, hang out with a bunch of other cultures. I'm the Blackest person they know.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know why we have joined Blackness with struggle.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like Black people want to mistreat or dismiss biracial people or
Mm-hmm.
people who grew up in the suburbs, or Black people even grew up rich. It's like the idea that you can't have been Black and rich, but you could. You can.
So that all goes back to that first question. What does it mean to be Black? Because it's like, for me, I did not grow up, I guess, in the hood. I grew up, middle class?
Yeah.
So does that not make me Black because of the life that I live? You know what I'm saying? I don't think that defines whether I'm Black or not. And this idea that you're not Black enough, or what does that even mean? How are you not Black enough?
So
that doesn't even make sense.
That kind of goes into like the last question that I have is like, why do you think Black people discriminate against other Black people?
Because we have created ideas in our head of what it means to be Black.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we think it means to be Black by the kind of foods that you eat, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. If I'm a like Black men, if a Black man got on a button-up shirt and a sweater vest, he ain't Black.
Carlton.
Hello? How Carlton not Black because he had on that's funny. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it's all hung gold. Ooh, Black successful people, we like that. But at the same time, if it was all, Will, he from the hood, we down with Will, but Carlton, he all proper, we can't get down with Carlton. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how, but that don't even make sense. Just because they grew up in two different backgrounds don't mean that one is more Black than the other. Mm-hmm. So I just think because we associate certain things with being Black, like food, the way we dress, the way we talk. If you don't do one of those things, I guess you're not Black enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Why do you think Black people do that?
I think a lot of people have their identity wrapped up in the struggle. Mm-hmm. I noticed this thing on social media earlier this year, and I'm like, this is kind of a weird thing to wrap your identity on around, which is the association of being a descendant of slaves. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually know I am a descendant of slaves. I tracked it down to the slave owner. Mm-hmm. But I'm not having my identity wrapped around that. Mm-hmm. And so some people have done that in that they separate themselves because, of course, like our culture is the culture.
Right.
And so a lot of people who come to this country, they will integrate into our culture, like a lot of Africans that come here. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Nigerians that I follow, and they're like, they have a lot of influence in Black culture. There's a lot of Caribbean Americans and stuff like that. And so a lot of people get offended that those people have positions of power and that they are speaking on the behalf of Black people because they feel like they shouldn't get the chance to do that because they're not descendants of slaves. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why Black people discriminate against other Black people because of our history. They feel like we should be the ones to speak up about being Black in America because we are the ones that have been oppressed here. But then it's like we're all in this country, and they don't. If you think about systematic racism and racism in general, the people that are racist against you don't care where you came from originally. Mm-mm. They don't care. They're
not asking you, hey, are you a descendant of the slave? If you're not, we're going to leave you alone.
It doesn't happen.
It has nothing to do with that.
So I think that's why, and it's just funny. It's not funny, but it's just interesting how the oppressed become the oppressors.
No, for real. Because, okay, let me say this. Man, slavery happened so long ago.
No, do not say that.
Let me finish.
Okay,
I understand slavery happened. It occurred. We know, we got it. But my thing is that we use that as our I don't know, it's not really a safety net, but we use that as our reasoning for what's kind of happening right now. And for me, it's like, it's not the same anymore. It's different.
it's not.
There is a different kind of slavery, I guess, per se, and it's technology. We are slaves to technology.
That's true.
And stuff like that. So the fact that we continue to have that conversation about what occurred in the past is not relevant anymore.
It is.
It's still relevant.
I'm gonna let you finish and I'm gonna break it down for you.
Because I mean, yes, it has its comparisons and its similarities, but we're no longer like physically in chains doing this, doing that the way that they did it. We don't forget it, but I think we have to shift our mindset to kind of figure out what we're gonna do for right now and what occurred back then.
So if you didn't know, the New York Times did this 1619 project.
Mm-hmm.
So 400 years ago in August, the first slave ship came to what is now known as the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
That happened 4 years ago. Slavery ended 250 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but Jim Crow, or the Civil Rights era,
Mm-hmm.
ended almost 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, slavery happened 250 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was still 100 years of oppression
Mm-hmm.
that happened afterwards.
Right.
And so black people weren't even considered full people
Mm-hmm.
until like 1965.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that is only one generation ago.
Right.
That's my mother-in-law. She only 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even one generation. There are people alive who remember drinking from whites only fountains.
Right.
There are people alive who remember seeing family members hanged
Mm-hmm.
or burned or tortured by the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
There are still towns that have sundown rules, which
Mm-hmm.
is black people better not get caught in that town after the sun go down.
Right.
There are still towns that we black people know don't go there.
Right.
And so, yeah, it happened
Mm-hmm.
in the past, but that stuff is still
Happening today.
happening. There's still remnants, evidence
Right.
of that mindset that's happening. So, yeah, we're in a better time and place, but also black people aren't that much better now than they were 60 years ago. Like, they did a study
Mm-hmm.
that says, like, basically, financially, black people are exactly or a little worse than where we were when the Civil Rights era happened.
Really?
Yes.
That's bad.
Yes.
Now that, okay, you made a good point of that.
So it's like you may not know that. So
Mhm.
like to you like, I mean, I got an apartment, I got technology,
Mhm.
you know, nobody calling me the N-word every time I leave the house. I can
Mhm.
go wherever I want freely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can, but if you think about it, black men are in the highest rates of black men are in prison.
Uh-huh.
Not because black people commit more crimes, but because black people are targeted.
Right.
Black people are framed.
Mm-hmm.
Black people are seen to be inherently violent and
Mhm.
criminal.
Yeah.
Therefore, we are targeted.
Right.
So people call prison modern day slavery.
Right.
Because even though the 13th Amendment outlawed slavery, it gave a caveat in that slavery was still a thing under the case of prison.
Right.
Let me say it again. So even though the 13th Amendment outlawed slavery,
Mhm.
it gave a caveat in the exception of prison.
Right.
So it's like, oh, you're not a slave until you get arrested and go to jail.
Right.
Then you're now a slave again.
That's true. Okay, so I completely agree with you. I didn't think about it like that. You are correct. It's still happening today, which is very true. It just happening in different ways now.
Yes.
So my thing is how do you feel about one, how black people take on the struggle, and two, how black people kind of put themselves in positions to be a target of, I guess, that slavery. Now, some people are targeted unintentionally and on purpose, but for those people who do things, who kind of put themselves in that stereotype per se, that black people are violent or whatever, end up in jail. Why do you think? What do you think about that? Yeah.
People are a product of the environment.
Yeah.
If you grow up in the hood, you're just gonna do hood things. The downside of being black, though, is that you're not allowed to make mistakes. So a young white kid or maybe we say not even Hispanic people be having a struggle too. But a young white kid could be caught with drugs, and the officer just takes the drugs and let the kid go by his life. A black kid get caught with drugs, he getting arrested. He get a joint, he gets arrested. So it's just like black people aren't allowed to make mistakes. And so that goes along with that whole overcompensating, in that some people believe that you can't dress certain ways because it's like, oh, if you dress this way, then you'll get harassed by the police, so therefore you shouldn't dress that way. But that's not actually, it depends where you are and who you are. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't think we put ourselves in a certain position. I think people just be peopling, but some people aren't allowed to just be people.
Yeah.
Some people gotta be perfect robots. And black people is like, if we're not perfect robots, then we're penalized harder or harsher than other people. Also, I think it's just like you're part of your environment. I don't know any poor white people from the Appalachians, so I don't know what that struggle is like. All I do know is being poor and black, and I know that if you poor and black and all you know is poor and black, then all you think you could be is poor and black.
Yeah, it all goes back to mindset, honestly.
Yeah.
If we feel like we have to be perfect, then we're gonna mess up regardless.
We're not perfect.
We're not perfect. It has nothing to do with the fact about being black. Yeah, that idea has been placed on us that we have to be that, or we've created that idea. But honestly, when it all boils down to the fact that we're humans and we're not perfect and we won't be perfect. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be a mindset shift to really understand, okay, why do I do what I do? Why do I feel like I need to do this or be this or show this? You know what I'm saying? We feel like we have to show things or do certain things to be a certain kind of representation or a certain kind of person as a black person. So it's like, why? You know what I'm saying?
Because I think it's like sometimes the oppressed become the oppressor. So it's like, you see this a lot where kids that their parents move out to the suburbs, they grew up in the suburbs, but they still want to act like they hood because they want to fit into that black stereotype. Because they feel like if they don't fit into that stereotype, then they're not black enough.
Right. So we have to really ask ourselves, why do we do what we do? That
we don't know no better.
Yeah. So I guess we just have to begin just to educate ourselves and educate each other on these kind of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So I got one more question for you. So we have certain ideas of what it means to be black and all of this stuff. So why do you think we allow some people, like some white people, to come in and be like, oh yeah, that person considered black. Oh yeah, that's a white black girl. That's a white black boy, or whatever like that. Explain to me, why do you think that is? Why do you think some people of other races are considered to be black or are allowed in the culture? They're down. Yeah. Wow.
I think because we're just a naturally loving people. We just loving and accepting, y'all. I mean, I don't know. We'd be like, you down for the culture? Cool, bet. And I just think that's what it is. And I think we can recognize who's real and who's fake. Black people don't cut from Macklemore. Macklemore a real rapper, and they just like, nah. But Eminem, we like, yeah, Eminem, you can stay. I don't know. I think maybe because Eminem also grew up poor in Detroit, so we like, you know what our struggle is like. And so I think that may be a part of it. It's like, you have swag, quote unquote, or you can dance, or you can sing, or you know what the struggle is like.
Right.
Therefore, you can sit with us.
Right. That's a very limited mindset, I feel like. Why limit ourselves to those specific things in order to consider someone else fit into, I guess, Black culture.
I mean, all of this is an overgeneralization.
It is. It
doesn't
really
apply.
is.
It doesn't apply to everyone.
It doesn't.
Not everyone thinks that way. It's just how, it's like when you're struggling day in and day out, or when you're trying to make a way for yourself, you're just trying to figure out how to pay bills, no matter what class you're in, or you're just trying to figure out how to navigate this thing called life. It's easy to focus on the superficial things, because that's the stuff that will make you feel good. That's the stuff that will take your mind off your problems and things like that nature. It's like if you get too deep into it, you end up finding yourself always being angry, or the case may be. Like, some people are so woke that they can't see any humor in any racial type thing. Because it's like, once you know that, like, all the stuff I say, I know all this historical context to all this stuff, but I don't think about this on a regular basis because it would drive me crazy.
Yeah, no, for real, because we would think too much into it, and we will go about thinking everything has to do with race. Is this against me, that against me?
Yes.
I had another question, but it's getting kind of long. I was going to ask, what does it mean to be woke?
Basically, it's just to say you woke, just to say you just know.
You know what?
Whatever the case may be, know. You, like me, I guess in this context you could say I'm woke. I knew all the historical context behind this, everything we talked about. I may have not known like the exact historical statistics and stuff like that, but I knew the premise, so I may be more woke than you.
Okay.
Like Tiffany likes to say she's sleepwalking, because she said she likes to say that because she said she not entirely sleep. She knows some things, but she still navigates life as if she's just like, I don't want to think about it right now.
No.
She said she's sleepwalking.
I'm sleepwalking too. I feel that. I feel like, I mean, some stuff is relevant. Some stuff is racially motivated. Some stuff is like that. I just try to keep an open mind. I don't try to make it always about race. If I really feel like it's about race, I'm like, well, dang, that sucks. Then I'll think about it. But I try to be open-minded. I try not to limit my way of thinking and narrow it down to just race. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I want to be aware and alert, and mindful of the history and those things, but I don't want to just make it all about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of isms that run through this culture. Classism, sexism, racism. And so I think when you are one of those isms, that's what you tend to focus on the most. But
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So y'all, we talked a lot about.
Yeah, we actually kind of went away from talking about just stereotypes to just talking about being black.
Yeah.
And this conversation could have gone on much longer, but we're gonna wrap it up now. So,
comment.
Put your comments down below on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, feel free to email us at heysissypodcast@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts. Or you can message us on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes. What do y'all think it means to be black?
What do y'all think about any of the stuff we talked about today?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate all you listeners. It still amazes us that people are here listening to us, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. And until next time.
Yeah, subscribe to my channel too.
You don't have to say that.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't.
All right.
Bye.